I was a big sci-fi freak when I was growing up as a kid, and so I was well aware of Jack Finney's book, and my mom, who was a moviegoer and got me involved in movies, watching movies as a kid, took me to see the original, and it was pretty scary. And so when I got a call to have a meeting with Bob Solo, the producer, and Phil Kaufman, the director, I was pumped and excited, and they asked me if I had seen the original, and I told them, I said, "Are you kidding?" Sure I did, and I couldn't look at a watermelon for 3 years. So we all got a good laugh out of that, and then next thing I know, they asked me to do it, and you know, it was exciting for me at the time because I had just emigrated from Canada to Hollywood, and it was my first big feature film, and I was quite in awe of the cast and the director and the cinematographer. So I was excited from day one. I read the script, it just doubled up. It doubled up the excitement because I thought Richter took a real good angle at it, and I knew that Phil Kaufman had a lot to do with that as well. And they just updated it, and they picked a fabulous city to shoot it in for so many reasons. There's such a cross-section of people in San Francisco, and just from day one, you knew that Phil Kaufman had his eye on the prize and knew exactly what he wanted to do with his film. I love the fact that the film is so broad in a sense. You really feel with the characters. You know, they feel human, and there's humor in it with Jeff Goldblum, who's a naturally funny guy anyway. Veronica Cartwright is, you know, she's been acting since she was a child, so, you know, everybody was just fabulous, you know. It was just great for me to be on the set. My working relationship with Phil Kaufman was very collaborative. He loved working with actors, he loved actors, and, you know, he taught me a lot about the relationship between a director and an actor that I hadn't already learned working with Bob Clark in Black Christmas before that. So it was very collaborative. We had to establish right away because we kind of my scenes were some of the first scenes shot, and so my character became the first character body snatched, other than a character you see at the very beginning of the film in the park, who it suggested might also be body snatched, the priest on the swing, played by Robert Duvall, who had showed up that day talking to Phil and was looking for a tennis game. And I play tennis, so we were talking about that, and then Phil said, "Why don't you don the priest outfit and sit on the swing?" So he was probably the first body snatch character. I mean, how many times do you see a priest in a park? But we had to talk about, you know, the behavior of a body snatched person. And, you know, a lot of people played it in the first one sort of like you know, you remove the emotion and they become almost flat. And we didn't want it to be flat. We wanted the character to appear to be able to work his way through society by thinking what emotion the other human being might be looking for, and pretend to be that. So, it was always interesting doing that, and I think we pulled that off very successfully. And basically, you can see that really clearly in Leonard Nimoy's performance, where he seems to be perfectly natural and normal and chatty and wise and you know, not flat at all. You know, he didn't want any flatness in the characters. You know, I think you can portray that sometimes, you can see that sometimes in the mass of people as they're moving down the street or something. There's no interaction and things like that. So that's generally, they've become of one purpose, and they're just moving forward, and they're moving the pods and all that kind of thing. But as far as the main characters were concerned, he didn't want any flatness in their performance at all when they were playing a snatched character.
Thank you.
I just gave her a psychological band-aid, Matthew. I should talk to her some more. I could bring her by my office tomorrow around 4.
What's the matter with her?
It's like there's some kind of a hallucinatory flu going around. People seem to get over it in a day or two. All I can do is treat the symptoms.
She's gonna be okay.
Good night's sleep wouldn't hurt.
Is it contagious?
Matthew. Take her home to her boyfriend.
That wasn't what I was thinking. I was just wondering whether the health department should look at it.
Who knows? I don't know. I wish I did.
Yeah, my character was, like I say, my character was the first snatched character in the film. And in subsequent scenes, you can see he seems to be leading a small group, a small cadre of snatched people who are trying to work their way into getting Brooke snatched and some of the other people snatched. And I always interpreted it, because it was never really stated that way by Kaufman or Richter or Bob Solo, that my character was the leader or anything like that. But I kind of always interpreted it that Leonard Nimoy's character was a mover and shaker in the organization, shall we say. That was how I dealt with it, and that's how I interacted with Leonard. At no time in all the days I worked with him, the days and hours I worked with him, did we ever talk about Star Trek. And he was a legend in Star Trek. He wasn't just a star, as stars go. He was an icon. That show became such an iconic show on television. And nowhere better did that show up than one time we had a break between doing some daytime scenes, and we were going to do the nighttime bookstore scene. So we went to dinner, and the maitre d' rejected us because we didn't have a reservation. He said you'd have to wait, and he sent us into the bar, and we thought, oh, okay, that's okay. We'll go have a drink. We went in. It was after hours. People had just gotten out of work, and there was all these young people there who were probably big fans of Star Trek. And Leonard walked in ahead of me, and these people just turned, and their eyes went wide like saucers, and they all just looked like they were about to implode on him. And he turned around. I said, I think we should leave, right? And he says, yeah, let's get out of here. And we started to leave, and the maitre d' caught up to us. I guess somebody had just said, you know who you just rejected. And he said, we'll have a table ready for you in a few minutes. And sure enough, we did get a table eventually, but where we had to hang out by the washrooms, out in the hallway outside the washrooms until the table was ready. That's what I think Bob Westmore, the makeup guy, said, you see, when you're a star, you can get a table. I said, yeah, when you're a star, you get to hang out in a hallway by a washroom. You know, it's really exciting. But Leonard taught me, working with Leonard on that show, and that was my first big feature film in America, he taught me how to behave as a celebrity, for want of a better word. Hanging out with him, people were coming up to him constantly, and he was ever patient with people, ever patient. Even that night at the restaurant, we were dining, and a drunk came up to him and started out saying, "You're Leonard Nimoy," and he put his knife and fork down and said, yes, I am. And
You did Star Trek.
he said, yes, I did. And
That was a great show.
he said, yes, it was, thank you. He said, but you know what was wrong with it? And he proceeded to spew out about 5 or 8 minutes of what was wrong with it. And Leonard just was patient, just sat there and smiled through it all. And so I learned a hell of a lot from him. He was a consummate actor, a consummate gentleman, and really gave me a big lesson in life.
Oh, people, will you please listen to yourselves? Will you please listen to what you're saying? Look, I can deal with a body being moved. I can even deal with a body getting up and leaving. But when you start talking about his other body, her other body, people being duplicated, will you listen to how that sounds?
Don't you think we know how insane this sounds?
My working relationship with Brooke Adams was wonderful. We got along really well. We hit it off right away. It played an important part later on when Brooke was struggling, had some struggles with working with Donald Sutherland. Donald was also working on Animal House. So he was commuting back and forth up to Oregon. So he always seemed to me to be distant and aloof, and you know, it didn't affect his performance at all, but it did affect you know, my relationship with him. I came away not really happy with the way I usually am working with people. But in Brooke's case, she was wonderful. She was always wonderful, and she actually came to me one day with worried about how Donald was treating her. She thought he was being a little bit dismissive, and it was upsetting her. And I told her that I knew what a wonderful actress she was, and just do what you have to do for this role, because you're going to be fabulous in it, and not worry about how he's behaving personally, you know, off camera. Just do what you have to do, and do it the best you can do it. And later she thanked me for that advice, because she went back and started doing it that way. And I think he came around, and for the rest of the film, I think they were on even footing, and the results show in their performances, their scenes together.
Where you been? You've been driving me crazy. I've been looking all over for you. What's the matter with you? You all right? Talk to me, Elizabeth.
Oh, what was it like to work with Jeff Goldblum? It was a delight every day. He was constantly engaged with everybody, and he has a very unique sense of humor. We just had a ball all the time we were working together. You know, we didn't get a chance to work a lot together. You know, we were mainly in the office building, the laboratory and stuff like that, but that was a complicated scene to shoot. You know, we had to do a lot of coverage, so Jeff and I had a chance to sit around. Donald was off someplace, so Jeff and I kind of bonded, and we played incredible, massive amounts of gin rummy, which is a quick game you can play between shots, and we play for stakes, high stakes, like we play for all the marbles or the whole shooting match. Okay, this game is for a whole ball of wax. We're going to play for the whole ball of wax this time, you know, stuff like that. We'd invent all kinds of things. So we just had a ball, you know. It was the direct antithesis of what was happening in the scenes, you know, which tends to be a lot of times what actors do out of, I think, a desperate need to escape the mood that the scene is. For instance, it was very serious, and they were trying to inject them with sleeping drugs, and So we were just laughing and having a good time off the set.
His ideas are garbage. Kibner's ideas are pure garbage.
How can you say that about a man like Kibner?
I'm not saying it about a man like Kibner. I'm saying it about Kibner. He dashes one of these things off every 6 months. It takes me 6 months to write one line sometimes.
Why?
Because I pick each word individually, that's why.
Well, I didn't get a chance to work with Veronica. I did talk to her on the set, and I'd come out. I'm one of those people that comes out to a set when I'm not working, so I get to watch and watch the other actors work, and I get to chat with the crew and people, you know, that you don't get a chance to talk to all the time when you're actually working and rehearsing and getting ready to shoot. So I'd go out. I want to watch her, especially because I had so much admiration for her as an actress, and still do. She's just got a huge resume, and her and Jeff worked so well together, and you really felt a real sense of their humanity, the two of them. You know, they're running this little health spa, and just trying to get by, and you just felt. You know, we especially feel the paranoia and the fear in her character. She is constantly upset by what's happening, and she played that so well. So she really added a tremendous amount to the final result.
Who is it?
It's Matthew.
I don't know, Matthew, I called you here as a friend.
Oh,
you know.
Jack.
Do you report certain things when you run into them, like contagious disease or a dead body in a place of business?
Jack, would you let him look at
You
it?
found the body?
No, not necessarily. We didn't. No,
I thought it was Jack.
Is that him?
Yeah,
I think the biggest plus in this film, besides Phil Kaufman directing it, was the cinematographer, a guy named Michael Chapman, who has you know, a resume like Samson. It's, you know, he was camera operator on Jaws, one of the biggest movies of all time. The Godfather. He worked in The Godfather. He was the cinematographer for Taxi Driver. Gave it that feel that you had, that grainy feel in the lower east side of New York City. And one of my favorite films, one of Jack Nicholson's early films, The Last Detail. That was a gritty film, cinematography-wise, and he works on he works like an actor. And I know this about Michael, that he loves actors. He loves the whole process of actors. He actually played a character in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but he works very closely with the actors, with his lighting. First of all, he's intensely, from the very get-go, he watches the rehearsals. Usually what happens is the director will rehearse the actors, and then he'll bring the crew in to watch, including sometimes the cinematographer. But in Michael's case, he was always right beside Phil Kaufman, watching everything we did, watching the process of the blocking and why we went here and why we moved over there and why we chose to cross over here. And he would ad-lib, almost ad-lib in an actor way, the lighting moves that were being made. Lights would actually move during the takes. He would explain to the actors. He loved working and talking with the actors. He would explain what he was about to do and what he was going to do, and how, if they could help him out here in this moment without it detracting from their performance, if they could move this way, and if you can, you know, he would say things like, "I love when you turned and looked this way. I'm going to have this special light set up so that will catch that look and it'll really accentuate what you're doing there," and all this kind of stuff. So it was just, you know, I had never seen that before in my life, and it was just to open my eyes up to the possibilities, and so for us that was I think one of the very most important parts of that film, was having Michael Chapman on it, because he's a genius.
Thank you, Matthew. You've really made me feel better. And I'm going to think about what your friend Kibner said.
Okay.
Thanks for helping. Night.
See you.
Yeah, it's very funny how that worked out, that I did 3 what have become classic horror movies in a short space of time, considering the fact that it was never my intention to ever do even one horror film. When I was a kid growing up, I mentioned that I was a sci-fi nut and loved science fiction, but you know, it was just an incredible coincidence, and I've always claimed that my career is probably 20% talent and sweat and 80% luck. And it was just my luck that I got a chance to do Black Christmas, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and The Brood in a very short period of time, and to work with those wonderful people that were connected to that. People who weren't just horror filmmakers, they were feature filmmakers. The Bob Clark, the Phil Kaufman, David Cronenberg. They had long, extended careers in diverse projects, and I'm very proud and happy that I got a chance to be a small part of their careers. I have one special memory. I was involved in a film in Toronto that I was doing with David Cronenberg called The Brood, and it was a very depressing film to do overall because of the subject matter, not because of David. David's a very funny guy on the set, and you know, so that part was okay, but it was still was a lot of blood, corn syrup with number 8 red dye, and you're sticky, and it was just horrible. So while I was doing that film, Invasion of the Body Snatchers opened, and I went to see it, and it blew me away. I was so frigging happy. I remember going on the set and telling David, I'm in a big hit movie, it's fabulous, you gotta go see it. You know, I was so excited and happy, because, you know, you don't know, you make films in bits and pieces, and you know, I'd done a film that eventually became a classic, Black Christmas, and that wasn't really a big blockbuster film, you know. It got some good reviews and things like that. It got its name changed when it went to the States to Silent Night, Evil Night. So it was exciting for me, exciting times and very heady times, and my career kind of took off after that in Hollywood. So it was very exciting. You know, that's the great thing about it. You know, I tell people that when I die, if I end up going to hell and the devil says, okay, your punishment in hell is you have to pick one of your films and watch it forever, I would, if I had my choice, I'd pick Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Because there's so much in it. The first screen, I had to go back and see it again, because you miss things. There's so many great nuances in it. There's so many great performances. There's humor that you miss. There's all kinds of little nuances in the film that Phil Kaufman's put in, and the actors have put in, and Leonard Nimoy's done, and Michael Chapman's done. It's just a film you can watch over and over again. And if you got the DVD, you're in heaven. You can just play it and stop it and rewind it and run it again, and it's just exciting. I can't tell you how, it's my favorite film that I've done.